I feel like it wasn't all that long ago that I just came on the radio and suggested that this individual run for mayor. And
Really?
then it happened.
Yeah.
We're talking about Democratic candidate for mayor in the city of Danbury, Roberto Alves, and he joins the show now. Hey, Roberto.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's crazy. You did this to us, right? So my wife, she should blame you for me not being around all year.
Yeah, well, I know this is your busy season, as it is ours. I've been trying to convince people of that,
What do you mean it's our busy season?
See, I have to tell this guy what we're up to. But enough about us. Tell us what you're currently up to as we head towards the election. What have you been out doing?
Pretty much what we've been doing since the spring, Lou. We haven't stopped, right? We started fast, we started hard, and we kept going. And we announced in January, and by April, we already had our ground game. We were out on the doors. Obviously, there's more now because the swell of support and volunteers, that's only snowballed into something really special to where we have, dozens and dozens of people every day, not just once a month or twice a month, like where we'd have 55 people in May going to doors. We have this all the time now. So it's just talking and getting in front of more of our residents, talking about the issues and talking about how we are going to deliver on our solutions.
So I always find it interesting. I think what folks don't pay close attention to when we're heading towards an election is what the issues are, and candidates often disagree on that. That's the starting point. What do you believe the issues are in Danbury that need to be addressed immediately?
Yeah, I think what we hear over and over is education. You've seen pictures on social media of crowded hallways. You hear every day about, school overcrowding. Our kids couldn't go back to school full time last year during COVID because we didn't have the space to be able to safely space them out. Obviously, COVID was a unique scenario, and we recognize that. But all over the state, there were kids who were there 5 days a week because they had enough space. Danbury just doesn't have enough space, and this isn't a new problem. This isn't a problem for this year for COVID. This is something that's been going on for Danbury for years. So with that, in education, there's also, infrastructure issues. We talk about flooding on local roads. Whenever it rains like this, we know the roads we have to avoid because we just haven't had, the vision or, just the willingness to address and talk about certain areas. And now it's funny how this year, one of the ones we've been bringing up has already come up as an area that the city's looking to address. But it's great. I mean, we talk about issues, and hopefully they get done no matter what happens. Helping out our small businesses that have been struggling through COVID, or making it easier for businesses to come into Danbury, COVID or no COVID, right? It's these kitchen table issues.
Now, when you talk about education, I read a statistic the other day that said most communities, cities and towns in Danbury's youth population is dwindling, and ours has been continuing to rise. So we're sort of the aberration. I know there are short-term issues with overcrowding, but for a long-term plan, like how long do we project this youth population to continue to grow, and what do you do about that long-term?
Yeah, well, one of the challenges has been there have been two demographic studies that have been, very off, and now our new superintendent, Mr. Kevin Walton, is calling for a third one. But do we really need a third demographic study to tell us what we see all the time, Lou? Right? You're in Danbury every day. I mean, you get out of work up there and you come here, you're walking the streets, you have kids in the school system. You don't need a demographic study to tell you that their schools are full, we don't have enough space. Now, if we want to use a new demographer to project us out 10, 15 years, that's a good idea, because the last two, they were wrong. Danbury's a special place. I mean, we're not the only place growing in Connecticut. Look at Stanford, they grew by 10%. Bethel grew by 9%. That's a higher percentage than us. We are the ones who, our youth did grow the most, but as these other communities grow, eventually they will have those challenges too, as families grow, get bigger and go into the school system too. So again, we just have to stay on top of it. It shouldn't have been a shock to anybody that Danbury had more kids. We knew it. We saw it year after year. Look at kindergarten enrollment. Look at enrollment in our high school. This isn't something that we didn't see coming, right? I mean, if you want to say we didn't see it coming 10, 15 years from now, that's fine. But the present day, this isn't new. Every year we've had these challenges.
Now, when you talk about education, you just released your education plan the other day. In fact, I published an article about it. If you could pick one item from your education plan that you'd like to highlight, what is it?
It's tough to say just one item, right, Lou? I mean, there was 6 points there because it's all critical for the success of our schools. Our schools need a tremendous amount of help, and one single thing isn't going to fix it. If I had to pick one single thing, it is the vote for me, because we're actually going to address this. We're not going to continue to kick the can down the road. Right. That's the most critical thing right now to help our school systems. Is that yesterday the teachers just endorsed me. Right. This is the NEA, their organized wing. This is the first time I want to say over 20 years that in Danbury they've made an endorsement. I could be wrong about that. We're trying to find this. They didn't even have an answer because they can't even remember the last time they endorsed somebody. And they're the front lines of the schools, the ones who are in the rooms with our children every day, the ones who have been bearing the burden of these school systems. And it is something very special to me, and I am honored to have their endorsement.
Now, I always want to, as we're going to do these each week for a while now, so we'll have plenty of time to fit everything. But each interview, Ethan and I kind of want to get a sense of your personality. So let's start with like pop culture. What are the TV shows you watch, or movies that you like, or music that you listen to? Let's go with TV shows first.
TV shows. All right. Well, I am anxiously waiting, Lou, and I think you know this, for the next season of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That is a great show.
Good. I'd like to hear both of you guys say that. I was upset they delayed it. It's supposed to come out. Traditionally, it comes out around Father's Day weekend. Then it was supposed to be September, and now it's November after the election. I plan on winning, so I probably won't have much time, but we will try to fit that in. In terms of older shows, listen, political nerd, I do love The West Wing. I've watched that many times.
I like this guy.
It's great.
That's my favorite show of all time.
That's Ethan's favorite show.
Ethan, I've watched it. I think we're going through our fourth time going through that show.
Yep.
It's
I'm
background.
there.
There's a podcast. Oh, great. Listen, we should follow the podcast together. You know there's a podcast now,
I know.
too.
I know.
Right?
Now, when it comes to Yellowstone, here's what's messed up about me. Beth is a train wreck, and I am so attracted to her for all the reasons.
You too?
You too?
Yeah. I'm like, I can hang with Beth.
Whenever Lou says anything a little suspect there about the race, I always send him a text of RIP.
That's true. I do get a text message of RIP. All right, Roberto, this was great. We appreciate some of your time. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks a lot. Roberto Alves.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Roberto. Bye-bye.